We've got Manish Tewari from the Congress, Rajiv Pratap Rudy from the BJP minister in the Modi government, and of course CT Now's consulting editor Swaminathan Aiyar as well, joining in to take stock of the budget session and the road ahead as far as the legislative agenda of the government is concerned. Swami, to you first. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley emphatically in their interview stated that he's pretty happy with the progress made in this session of the parliament, at least so far. How productive do you believe this leg of the budget session has been?
The budget itself is actually something full of, I would say, more than 10 major ideas, institutional ideas, which will have to be implemented over time. So how good this is in the conceptual sense, we'll know after some time. But apart from the budget issue, there has been the question of how strong is the government and can it get all kinds of legislation through? Because the budget, after all, is just one very, very limited part of what constitutes governance. They had all these ordinances which have to be converted into laws. They are having a very tough time. They are having a tough time even with their own allies on the land bill. So it's very, very clear that the Congress and various other parties are going to make life tough for the Modi government. They are not going to be able to just issue ordinances and then say this will become law. No. You will not be able to become, I mean, on the one hand, if it goes to select committee, there can be all kinds of amendments. It might even not go through. So when the ordinances were first issued, you happily had Modi and Jaitley saying, "Arey, ordinance has the full force of law. You can go ahead and invest as though it's true." Now it's very, very clear that was absolute rubbish. An ordinance has no force. It can be amended. It can get rejected later on. So until things are converted into law, nobody is going to act on all these new ideas. And converting them to law is going to be a tough, long job.
Mr. Rudy, you represent the Treasury benches here, and I'm just going to take a cue from Swami's answer and throw it at you. He's saying it's going to be very, very difficult for the ruling party to wade through the opposition. Do you believe in some sort of a way this is payback time by the Congress, because you were as adamant as an opposition when you sat across the Treasury benches?
Everyone has to appreciate two aspects. A, that NDA has a majority, the BJP has a majority in the Lok Sabha, so things are smooth sailing. A, we have to admit that we do not have a majority in the Raj Sabha. But the numbers in the Raj Sabha is a number which is retrospective. That means the Congress or those opposition parties have those numbers not on a fresh mandate, but a mandate of the states which was earlier. And at the end of the day, they may have the strength to arm twist at given point of time. But at the end of the day, must realize the mandate which has been given to the government exists in the Lok Sabha. Not that I deny the mandate that they have. And if by design, if they try to obstruct or try to create an obstacle, I think that is not done. And they should appreciate that the government does want to keep them in confidence, but at the same time, if this obstructionist measures which they adopt, which at times sounds very unreasonable, is of course a matter of concern, but we have seen that even after that, they have come on board. So they have to do their own bit of politics. We absolutely agree to their bit of politics, but at the end of the day, the onus is on the government, because whatever we feel is best for the nation, we must have the people have given us the authority to do it, and we have to do it. So that is also one aspect which has to be kept in mind with the opposition, in the Raj Sabha in particular.
But Mr. Tewari, comment on that. What's behind this opposition? You know, is it because you believe the BJP has been arrogant about its mandate in the Lok Sabha? Did you expect it to be more conciliatory, or did the ordinance route upset you? Why this obstructionist role?
Well, it's not a question of upsetting the main opposition. It's a question of undermining democracy. After all, the minute the winter session ended, you decided to promulgate these ordinances. In fact, if they were so urgent, you could have always brought them to the winter session of Parliament, or you could have waited till the budget session. But be that as it may, you see, this entire philosophy of trying to steamroll your way through Parliament does not augur well for democracy at all. So the fundamental objection is that you are taking the House, or you're taking the legislative system for granted. It is not about, the opposition trying to rub the government's nose in the ground, how much ever we might love to. But what are the portents and what are the implications that it has for democracy and democratic institutions at large.
All right, Swami, let me actually put the politicians at rest and ask you the question. How do you justify the role that the Congress party is playing? Are they being a responsible opposition because opposition's role, like you said, is to oppose, or are they being obstructionists as the ruling benches or the finance minister, specifically speaking, has called them? Like I asked Mr. Rudy, is this payback time by the Congress at some stage?
It's both. I mean, Chidambaram himself, as he put it, he says we have not become the opposition in order to support. We have become the opposition in order to oppose. Had we won, it would have been a different matter. And yes, just as the BJP was obstructionist when it was in the opposition, the Congress is going to do the same. They want to show that Modi is not a man with some kind of magic wand. If he comes along, this gets done, that gets done. No. They're going to show that Modi is going to stumble, Modi is going to face one barrier, another barrier. The idea that once Modi comes, everything clicks and goes through. That, I'm afraid, has been demonstrated is not the case. I think this is definitely going to hurt Modi's image. We're getting to this one-year honeymoon period of his. And at the end of it all, the question is, are we really having Achhe Din? And the answer to the BJP itself is having many Bure Din in Parliament. We have also had these unseasonal rains which have sent up vegetable prices, which have damaged the crops, including the food crops. So there are a number of things which are not going so well for the Modi government.
Swami being critical as usual, but Mr. Rudy, let's get to the bottom line. What do you think has upset the opposition so much? Do you believe the ordinance route in hindsight was avoidable? Did that upset the opposition, Mr. Rudy?
No, opposition has the right to oppose, but it's no reason to get upset about anything. The numbers, if they don't have the numbers in the Lok Sabha, that can't upset them. And ordinance is a part of the legislative business of the government, of governance. So it's not that ordinances have not taken place, and ordinances are urgency of the government on certain legislation.
So what do you think is the fate of the Land Acquisition Act then, Mr. Rudy? That's the big flashpoint, and the opposition is in no mood to relent. How will you achieve consensus there? Mr. Rudy?
Well, as far as the land bill is concerned, anyone who we have corrected some of the shortcomings in that bill, and we would strive to see that that's passed. If it was not our belief that this is in the welfare of farmers, we would have never got it. We firmly believe that the actions which we are taking is far more for the benefit of the farmers and the nation, and we have to create a sync for that. Of course, they want to raise a jargon, they want to talk as if, because it's an emotional issue. But in course of time, we'll convince the people that it is in their interest, and politics of this kind, where they want to score a point, will not last for long.
Mr. Tewari, I want you to react to that, because the big flashpoint between the Congress and the Treasury benches really has been the new land laws. What is it, that one thing that will make you change your stance? 9 amendments have been brought in by the bill when it was passed in the Lok Sabha. Land is, after all, the starting point of any infrastructure, investment, growth, development, all of that. You wouldn't want to stall any of this. So what will make you change your mind?
Well, that is not true, Supriya, because this particular act was notified on the 1st of January 2014. And in fact, in many states, the rules under this act have not even so far been properly notified. Where is the empirical evidence that the Land Acquisition Act, which was passed in 2013, to which the BJP also acquiesced, is really the cause of projects getting stalled? There is no empirical evidence. So till the time the Bharatiya Janata Party or the government is not able to demonstrate empirically that the Land Acquisition and Rehabilitation Act, which was passed in 2013, is detrimental to the economy, I think they might as well just go and take a walk.
All right, I don't know about the rest of the opposition, but Mr. Tewari and Mr. Rudy don't seem to be agreeing on those land laws. Swami, you're the neutral party here, and let me ask you for your assessment. In your assessment, what do you think is really the fate of the Land Acquisition Act? Will the government have to climb down further, blink more, or is a joint parliamentary session perhaps the only way out? Because this is a crucial legislation that has to pass the muster of the House.
Frankly, your guess is as good as mine. I believe that it will ultimately go through in some form. In what exact form, I don't know. Because you even have the Akali Dal and other allies of the BJP, which want the law to be much tougher. Here then is the paradox. You passed this particular law. The moment you passed it, all projects came to a halt. Various chief ministers said, what's happening? So the BJP got up and said, well, we're going to amend this so that projects can go through. And the moment it says so, all the opposition parties saying, what on earth are you doing? So I'm afraid what is really happening is showing that while Modi is serious about getting projects unstuck and going ahead, the opposition parties are saying, we are not going to allow you to do this. And they have the power, if not to let the amendment, the legislation go through, very significant amendments I think are going to come in, which will make the process of land acquisition much more difficult than Modi wanted. It may still be much, much better than was the case under the UPA government. But it is going to become more difficult. In particular, I think people saying the consent clause of farmers is going to be toughened up, I think, in whatever legislation comes out. I would add one thing. You know, there's too much emphasis on land acquisition and taking land away. I have always been one who's saying, don't acquire the land, lease it compulsorily. Let the ownership remain with the farmers, but I lease it from you. I pay you a down payment and a certain rental, and you are still the owners of the property. You can transfer it. It can be inherited by your children. So, you know, if you do it that way, they become stakeholders in the process. So I do think that if we have amendments of this kind, and if we emphasize the leasing option rather than the outright ownership option, I think the process of land acquisition will become easier and fairer.
All right, Swami, point noted. Let's get to the political aspect of this budget session. And the big headline, Mr. Rudy, has to be Sonia Gandhi taking control of the opposition in many ways. Are you surprised that Sonia Gandhi seems to have donned this new role of rallying the entire opposition around her? The fact that she's managed to rally the entire opposition, which seemed pretty divided around her.
I don't see any action on that front. I don't know what you're saying, but you're eulogizing that Sonia ji is the main architect of all the activities. Yes, I have seen ma'am doing some disruptive actions and giving indications to her own members for some disruptive actions, but that much of concession has to be given to her. But beyond that, I think they have lost the opportunity.
Mr. Tewari, I obviously don't expect the BJP to credit her for rallying the opposition, but what's behind this new avatar, so to say, not shying away from taking to the street? And the obvious question is, shouldn't Rahul Gandhi be doing this job instead?
Well, there is a certain ideological framework which the Congress believes in, and that lies at the core of the entire Congress's conception and philosophy as to how it views India and it views the world. And when you find that this government starts assaulting elements of that core, then obviously the response is extremely aggressive. And Mrs. Sonia Gandhi very rightly and very articulately made that point when she led the street protest, that look, we are prepared to cooperate, but then we know how to draw the red lines and draw the red lines very effectively.
You very craftfully skirted away from the question on Rahul Gandhi. I don't expect you to answer that. Mr. Rudy may not have any answers to this, but Swami, do you know where Rahul Gandhi is?
I don't know, and I don't think he wants you to know either.
All right, no one knows where he is, and he should in fact be leading those protests and not his mother Sonia Gandhi, like many Congress people will want us to believe. But thanks very much, each one of you, Mr. Rudy, Mr. Tewari, and of course Swaminathan Aiyar, for being with us and getting us up to date with your take on this first leg of the budget session. Much has been done. Much ground needs to be covered.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.